over to Erica first.
Oh, yes. Erica's going to fill us in first on some announcements and different things that we have going on. So
are you pressing?
I got record going. So take it away, Erica.
All right. Well, welcome to our final Midday Cafe of 2018. It has been just a joy this year to be with you. And so we're so grateful for this online community and just the break in the day to grab a cup of coffee or a tea and meet up and talk about one of our favorite tools. And so we want to invite you as 2019 comes quickly to consider if you're not already a part of the International Enneagram Association. And we want to ask you to consider even being a part of it at a professional level. And so there's several benefits to you, and you can read about that through the IEA. But one of the benefits, even as being a part of this community, is we put out a monthly newsletter. And we would love to promote if you're doing workshops or if you have a training coming up. And so those are parts of the benefits of just being a part of this great community at a different level. And the cool part about it is you can actually affiliate with the Great Lakes region. And so by doing that, you help part of your dues for the IEA actually helps to support things like this Midday Cafe. It helps to support us being able to host spring and fall training events for you. And so we would love to invite you to be a part of that at a more inner level. And so hope you'll consider that for 2019. We've got a couple of ways you can connect with us. And so there are loads of trainings, workshops, IEA accredited professional events coming up in 2019. And so those are all listed in the newsletter, but we're going to be posting those in our Enneagram Great Lakes Facebook page as well. And so I'll post a link to that. If you don't follow us there, make sure you check that out. And there's some great interaction that happens throughout the week. We want to invite you to be a part of that. And then also, you can always catch the replay of these calls through our YouTube channel. So I'll post the link for that as well. Just click subscribe. It doesn't send you anything or bombard you with emails, but it just makes you aware when we've got new videos coming up. And so before we get into the heart panel today, we are excited. Get it on your calendar. We'll be back with you January 16th. So third Wednesday in January. And our special guest is actually on with us today. So we're excited that Ruthie Landis. Ruthie, give us a wave. And so Ruthie's going to be with us. We're so excited for her conversation with Claire and just what that will bring forth. She uses the Enneagram in some really creative ways. And so we're excited about having Ruthie a part of that. So I'm going to turn it over to Claire Lowridge today, our IEA Great Lakes president. And she's going to facilitate our great discussion with the heart panel today.
Yeah, well, thanks, Erica. And just a couple of notes on some of the things you brought us. So Ruthie is going to be with us third Wednesday in January. Invite your friends to that. And if you haven't seen Ruthie's stuff, you can look her up on ruthieenergy.com, right, Ruthie? And we can put that link on the side. She's got a new book that we're going to be discussing. And as she says, the books that we read actually form us. And so we want to know what you're writing and see what that is. Did I quote you correctly, Ruthie? Tell me how I said it. Go ahead.
No, it's actually called Beyond the Book Club. We are the books we must read.
We are the books we must read.
Yeah.
And that's why I always thought Ruthie was a 4, but she says, no, she's a 2, but she's got a lot of 4 going on. So love that. And so make sure that you invite your friends. And also on the Facebook thing, let me say that we are not the robust community on Facebook yet that we dream to be. And so we're working on some ways to do that and inviting you to interact with us. As you know, we really relaunched the Great Lakes chapter. Ruthie and I served that crew for some years. And there's been a reboot to it. And so we're still getting our sea legs. And I think this year we had Chris Hewerts, we had Leslie Hirschberger, Tom Condon, Deborah Uten. Who am I forgetting? I mean, just fabulous teachers of the Enneagram.
Ginger Bogda.
Yes. And so we are not short on rich material and compassionate and empathic interactions. So I just think we're we're going for it, and we'd love for you to engage with us on Facebook so we can keep going. And Noelle, thank you for getting on Facebook Live last night. We did not crash the car. Kathy, welcome. So I love that we're going to be coming on as we go on, and people can just review this on the YouTube channel, whatever they missed. But I want to begin just by saying that 2s and 3s and 4s, that heart panel, they filter the world through emotional temperature. And so there is this beautiful EQ around the needs and responses of others, that this triad, when they're energized by the outer world of relationship, it nurtures connections. And sometimes the heart folks will disconnect. Sometimes they realize that their personal energy not only it works to connect, but it also can work to against them, and the disconnection can be really painful. So being aware and developing our EQ, because even as heart people, we're not always aware of our feelings. We're aware of everybody else's feelings. In fact, you may be picking up the vibe of everybody on this call right now. But there is this intentional practice of being aware, and even as the heart math people would encourage us to breathe right into the heart center and just notice what starts to happen when we're open and welcoming that kind of emotional intelligence that these wonderful heart types have. And so we gave our heart types a little bit of a context for today. So let's welcome Bill as a 2, and Teresa as a 3, and our beautiful friend Sam as a 4. And they're going to help guide the conversation by being vulnerable with us. And as Brené Brown would say, getting in the rumble of conversation. So they're going to bring themselves to us today around this little topic of holidays, and what that might bring up for those who love heart people and for those who are heart people that are sitting around the table. And so does anybody here know a heart type that you're going to be near in the next 10 days or so, right? And so the ability for us to practice empathy, and my friend used to say, not all I understand you, but no, I am you, right? There's this idea that we want to enter into the lives of people and not patronize them. So when you start to use language with heart people that is patronizing, they will close down really quick. So we're wondering how we can actually be present to love and be present to one another, and actually learn from our beautiful heart folks how to be in these holidays. And so I'm not going to read to you the article. If you didn't read it, it's on our Facebook page. And I think they did a great job of talking about this wonderful idea of flourishing during the holidays based on your Enneagram type. And we're going to let our resident 2, our dear friend Bill Reed, he's going to talk to us a bit about what it's like, Bill, to enter into the holidays as a 2, and what do you want us to know about you, and maybe others that are 2s, and how we can be present to you in these holidays.
Okay, well, that's a lot. Well, first of all,
you can do it.
I can do it. I come to it I'm gathering with my family, 4 of my 5 children and their families, and my spouse later this week. And out of all of us, there's 14 of us, I'm the only heart person. So right off the bat, that presents a unique opportunity for me to recognize that none of them really see the emotional connection like I do. And in fact, it somewhat overwhelms me, especially with all it's a time when people tend to be a little bit more emotionally in tuned, but it can be overwhelming for a heart type, at least for my type, in that in the past, before I discovered the Enneagram, was the doer, the giver, and to on overdrive, like on steroids. And I was doing everything, so everyone kind of expected that's what I do. And as a result, I've scaled back considerably. And I actually enjoy the holidays more because I can observe and kind of take in the vibe around me as opposed to creating the energy. It's hard for twos because we're so outwardly focused that to sit back, take a breath, and kind of enjoy the dynamic and not have expectations, because I had very high expectations that people would kind of match my energy, match my enthusiasm, match my passion, my love, my sentimentality, all the stuff that I get teased by my four sons in particular, is that, that's who I am. So just kind of accepting that and letting them come to the realization that I'm a different person today than they grew up with necessarily, and be okay with it. It's okay to be emotional. I think I spent my whole life trying to fight that label. Oh, you're too emotional, you're too sentimental, you're too this, you're too this. Interestingly, I am all those things, but it's a matter of how well I can just take it back. I never realized just how much I was pushing toward people and expecting them to kind of engage with me. And so this holiday in particular, since I'm in one of our son's homes, and I'm the guest as opposed to the source of, I will actually enjoy being a guest as opposed to being the host.
Wow. Yeah, Bill, I'm wondering, I'm really, I'm intrigued by your idea that you're taking in the energy of other people rather than putting your energy out. And so how do you do that? How do you relax into that place? How do you become the one that takes in energy? Do you have a practice? Do you have a...
Yeah, well, I meditate before I get together with my family, mostly for my own benefit and I meditate actually throughout the week, a long weekend, and sometimes it's just quietly being there around them, observing them, and just breathing in, because honestly, my inclination is always wanting to be the one that's doing it, kind of almost I don't want to be the center of attention, but I want to be kind of the driver of energy. And I hate negativity. And so the holidays sometimes bring up disappointments and anxieties that have not been yet resolved. My sister and her husband will be there, which changes the whole dynamic because she's an extremely negative person. And so as a result, I even try harder sometimes to get her to think positively, like, this is a really great, awesome opportunity to be around my kick-ass family. But I just learned that that's who she is. And so, as far as my practice is really more a matter of, physically just and emotionally, everything just kind of being more grounded. I never realized how much I was flying around busy. And I've often said that back in my heyday of big parties, big events, big everything was big. People would leave and we'd had 20 people for a sit-down dinner. And my wife, I'd say, I don't even remember talking to anybody. I don't remember even being there. I know I was so busy wanting to make sure everybody else was having a good time that I never really enjoyed, being with those people. That's the beauty of the holidays, is it brings people together, and they generally are in really good moods. So that's kind of the best case scenario for a heart person, but there's always that kind of mix. I don't know, and maybe again, because I'm too sensitive to it, I pick up a vibe. I'll notice somebody's facial expression or a response that I interpret as being more than it is. And my wonderful wife, who I've been with for 40 some years, always says, Bill, you're overestimating the involvement in their curiosity. They're not giving you a thought. And so she's a head person. And so she doesn't even see that stuff. And I'm like, how could you not notice that tone of her voice? And she'd be like, no, it wasn't there. It's just how you're interpreting it. So listening more, calming my natural energy down a little bit, and just, being present. I mean, I've been posting every day on Facebook since Monday, how many days left to Christmas, as a reminder really for myself that this is a season that the week before Christmas is usually crazy, but it's also a great time to kind of contemplate and anticipate with, calmness, what's ahead, so that's what I do.
That's beautiful, Bill. Thank you. And I'm loving that you're using the word energy, which can bring us to our 3 in the room here, Miss Teresa. And, when I think about 3s at the holidays, not because I have any personal experience here, but, when I think about 3s at the holidays and the kind of energy output, I'm just wondering how you are present. What are the difficult things for you this holiday season to remember presence? So I'm going for the juggler here, right?
You are.
And so tell me how you're entering into these days, and how are you calming down that need to produce and perform and, just put on the spectacular Christmas.
Yeah.
Or whatever holiday you're celebrating.
One of the things, I tell this story, my husband Dale tells this story on me. And so it kind of encapsulates the 3. Early on when, even 10 years ago, I would prepare a meal and we would sit down to a meal, whether it was just him and I or him and I and the kids. And he always says before he got his bread buttered, I was cleaning off the table because that's a 3, right? Like the meal's been served. I was so forward thinking that, and he's a 9 too. So we will take that into perspective and all of that. He's very methodical. Yeah. But it was that idea that he's still preparing the meal and, seasoning it all up and doing it. And I have eaten and I'm doing the dishes. And that was where I lived for so long. Even in the holiday season, it was about managing, like the holiday with the family was, an agenda, like 2 to 3 we'll do this and 3 to 4 we'll do this. And I never sat down all day long if I was hosting something in my home. So a word that I wrote down, and it's been a word that's been with me all through this season from Thanksgiving, just been trying to be very present to, more time of solitude, more time of silence, some specific books that I'm reading, some practices that I'm doing. But the word linger is a word that has come for me through this holiday season. And for a type 3 to linger is difficult, right? It's hard for us to sit eyeball to eyeball and have a conversation because we see what needs to be done and we're doers by nature. And so that is a part of what I'm practicing this holiday season and trying to practice. And even because of some own things that we've experienced in our family in the last couple of years that were, pretty high crisis things, this holiday season, as any holiday season will be moving forward, is always going to be an invitation to linger and to be present to that. A 3 doesn't do their emotions well. They do everybody else's, as many of the heart types do. But so to sit with my own and not fill it with things to do is really, really important for me. So staying home for a 3, at least for us and our family, to not have 14 places to go and things to do, and to stay home and invite people in to linger in my home, a group here and a group there, really makes my holidays a lot richer.
So, you say that you've been through some crisis in the last couple of years.
Mm-hmm.
Able to linger with the difficulty of that, the pain of that. What's that like for you? And
it is, and I've learned. We lost our son a year and a half ago. Kathleen had shared on our Facebook group. She's experienced some of that same loss as many of you probably here have. We all have. There's something about the holidays, whether it's birthdays or holidays, anytime, because we gather, Thanksgiving, Christmas, whatever, we gather. And when we gather, there's a missing person, and so to sit with that, how do we recognize that? How do we honor that and hold that? So one of the things that I've done the last 2 years is put up a tree with all of my son's ornaments on it and create a space of his stuff from Christmas, just to honor that and to be present to it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And, I'm so grateful, Teresa, for you to share that with us, and to say to you that we're grateful that you're able to linger there with those ornaments, and that
it's a beautiful space, and for our whole family. So when our family's over at Christmas, we get to not ignore, because that's what, many times, even though we're in the heart space, we want to ignore that, because for a 3, it gets in the way of what we could be doing. So it brings it very present for my husband, for myself, for my family that will come over, and not in a, even though there are tears, actually in a joyful way, because my son loved the holidays and was totally goofy. And so, you can talk about each of those things, and we're not pushing it down. We can talk about, the crazy stories and the love of Christmas. And I think we have a tendency to push those down instead of bring them forward, which is the beauty of what the heart space can do when we really let ourselves.
Right. When we're present, and when we're present to emotion, whatever that emotion is, whether it is grief or joy. And so thank you for that, Teresa. And it's really a beautiful introduction into the 4, because, the 4s have this way of being in the depths and experiencing their emotions at in ways that many times help others experience emotion, because they have a way of bringing it. For Sam, music, you're a songwriter and a liturgist, and so Sam, can you unmute yourself there, and tell us what it's like for you as a heart person who sees the beautiful mess of the world right now, and entering into this holiday season, and realizing, even in the article, I love when they said, during this season, remember that your feelings are guides, but terrible masters. That was well put, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I only say that because I have a 4 wing, and I get that. And so, who you are is not your feelings. So, if you could share with us what kind of energy are you bringing to the holidays, and what are you noticing? What are you aware of as your emotions as a guide and not a master?
Yeah. I love that, what it said about not your emotions being a terrible master. First of all, that's my wife's name, so I'm on her account right now. So Lindsay's here with me. But yeah, I'm reminded of a John Mayer song that was off of one of his recent albums, where he says, "It's just a wave." It's called "Emoji of a Wave," and he's talking about like these emotional waves that come and go, and they take us. And he says it's just a wave, and when it comes, it'll go. And that's kind of the way that that I'm reminded when the season comes around, is that I have to remind myself things are not me. I have to kind of I over-identify with my emotions. And so when I show up to a season that specifically, I think for 4s, they're looking for moments to matter and moments to mean something. And so this season has to, these connections, and in a lot of ways, for me, I show up, to answer your question, I show up with the feeling that I don't belong, or that something's missing, either in that gathering or in. So I show up wondering how am I showing up to this family or to this party, and what role do I fill? How do I stand out in this? How do I not disappear into the wallpaper? For some reason, that's just the thing that's showing up. And so I have to tell myself, like, I have to remind myself that emotion, that drive, that doesn't really mean that I am less than or that I'm missing something. And perhaps it's for me to bring something to that gathering or to that party or to this season for my family that actually suggests that I do have value, that I do bring something. A recent example of that, my mom is a 2, and I usually spend this holiday season with Lindsay and her family. And her family does this season very differently than my family, only because like on her dad's side, there was 9 kids or 9 children. And so they, the meal feels more like a buffet. It has to feel that way. It's a large family and there's a lot of, you have to come in and get it, And my family, although we had 5, I had 4 other brothers, still my mom managed to make these very kind of elegant moments for us during the season. And I had just been missing that so much. And so we went to take a trip down to Florida where my family is. And as we gotten older, my mom kind of felt like it wasn't necessary to do that. And she's a 2. So I just spoke up and said, hey, Mom, something that I feel like has been missing in, our Christmas experiences is like those really elegant meals that we used to have during the season. And I'm just telling you right now, I haven't had one in a while. So she was more than happy to do that for me. Like, I want to help. I want to do that, And then I was able to contribute to that as well. And that just made that whole time together really meaningful. And I, just was, as Teresa was just about sitting back and linger. I remember at some moment I was sitting at the table. There was a glass of wine in front of me. We had just had the turkey. It was sitting on the table. It was beautiful. I think we had desserts or something, or some kind of like port or something. It was really sweet. Candles, yeah. And I remember just sitting there looking at, and I was holding, I think, one of my children, probably my daughter, and I just felt really fulfilled. I felt like this is what I was looking for. So this season I'm not going to be in Florida, but I'm trying to bring that same kind of, what's the way that I can contribute to this season being meaningful and connected for my family. And so, yeah, that's kind of the questions guiding me, instead of how am I not suited? How do I not fit here? That's a terrible question for a 4. It kind of haunts a 4.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And so even when you use the word elegant, that's, that is such a wonderful picture of a 4 that is in touch with what they bring or what they value. And, in my, in a recent project that I was working on with a 4, I was trying to do something very effective and she was trying to do something very elegant. And the 2 of us together were trying to find effective elegance. And it was really a great dance, and so I wonder, when you think about the word elegant and you think about your mom as a 2, and that, that willingness to serve you, I'm wondering if you're able to find the elegance, if you're aware of your own elegance, if you're able to find elegance even with that family in the buffet, effective, the slopping of the pigs or something, so I wonder how you can become present to elegance in that kind of effective, buffet line.
Yeah. It'll be interesting and a challenge, and perhaps to see it as that kind of opportunity. Definitely.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, even on many of the conversations we've had on Midday Cafe is about finding harmony. And finding harmony with our IQ, our EQ, and our GQ, our gut intelligence, and utilizing some of the work that I've done around that. So, the heart triad is a needy triad. 2s, 3s, and 4s live for response from others. And when they don't get the responses they seek, they can feel incompetent or inadequate or disconnected. And so the feelings lead to an inner distress and their dominant fixation of shame. And David Daniels did name distress in his article that he wrote on the Harmony Triads on drdaviddaniels.com, the Harmony Triad article. And I find for heart types that distress is a real word. Like when things start to feel pixelated, disconnected. And so I'm wondering, when you think about shame or distress, being a driver, how do you relax that driver? How do you become present to what is more your true self, your elegant, loving self? How do you become more present to what's more true?
Claire, in the article under the 3, it talked about the word cooperation. And I thought that was a pretty good word of, if I can take the focus off of me and what I'm doing, what I'm achieving, the great party, the good food, the best gift, whatever it is. And it's more about cooperating and being focused on others. That makes a whole different way I'm seeing the day or, whatever. So I love that in the article, and we'll post that article here that Claire's referenced about the holidays, because it's a great one, but it talked about that cooperation piece. I can be the one to decide very quickly what we're going to do. It's part of my nature. But rather than sit and pause and linger and ask the question of, well, what feels best for you? What does the family want to do? What's best for others in this?
And so even with that good kind of self-awareness, do you let anybody else in to say, here's what my trigger is, here's what the driver is for me? And do you let people know that so that they can call you back to your true self, or do you prefer to find your way there on your own?
Well, honesty is, do I want to let people know that? No. But do they know that? Yes. Yes. We've had many of those Enneagram conversations in our home, and letting each other know. And, it does make a difference in even how, especially for my husband and I, how we approach things in, as a 9 and a 3. And how that dynamic can encourage one another, because we are in that same harmony flow. So, but yet me stepping back and being cooperative, and him coming awake and understanding that we have a lot of that conversation that goes on.
Yeah. And so I'm really wondering how we can be with our 2s, 3s, and 4s in our family. So does anybody have a question for the 2, the 3, or the 4 to say, how can we be with you in a loving way?
There is one in the chat from Diana. So Diana, do you want to unmute and ask your question? I think she's still with us. Yes, there she is.
Well, I don't know. I just wonder, because I have a 3 in our family who's has a lot of anxiety and depression. And I was just wondering, and I experience anxiety at times too. So is there, are we more prone, the heart types, are we more prone to anxiety and depression just because of our personalities?
So I don't know that I want to say you're more prone. I think we all do it differently. We all do anxiety and depression differently depending on our type, right? And so, there are, as Chris Hewerts and Richard Rohr both name anxiety rather than distress. They name shame and anxiety. And so, but I think those are all cues for us to notice what's happening in us. How does depression or anxiety show up in me as a 3, as a 2, as a 1, as an 8?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Seems like Ruthie wants to answer that question, but
Ruthie, you want to unmute yourself?
Yeah, I mean, I think like when we look at the word anxiety or we look at the word depression, they're repressive words. So what's underneath them is what's most important. like, so anxiety is repressed fear. So it's kind of like, can I sit in what I'm afraid of, right now? What am I afraid of? Am I afraid that people aren't going to love me? Am I afraid that, I won't do it well enough or whatever? And it's not, those are topical words. Those are symptomatic words. The word depression for me, is sadness and disappointment and anger taken and put down under a cap. And so, yeah, I do think that there can be a feeling of both anxiety and depression on a symptomatic level. But I think that what we really have to pause and look at is what am I sad about? What am I disappointed in? And really be willing to kind of dive into it. Heart types have the ability to dive deep. But often, it was something that our two said today when he says, I'm too this, I'm too that, I'm too sensitive, I'm too this, and I really am that. And that's very sad to think we're too anything, and that somehow we have to adapt or edit ourselves down. And so, I think it's an opportunity for us when the holidays or times come to dive into the feelings that we can really access and to do it without shame. Tears and and what's a negative feeling? There is no such thing as a negative feeling. A feeling is just a feeling. So I guess that's where I am at with it, is like, can I use anytime that triggers me to be more transparent to others and to myself about what I'm really feeling. Mm-hmm. So that's my little take.
Yeah, thanks, Ruthie. And I love the idea of saying, to think that we're too much of anything is just, that is sad. But when I think about Bill, you are too much, TWO. You are, and
what's interesting about that is, like, I don't think I am. So I'm not, depressed about it, but I think my anxiety, I don't like the word shame, number one. I never have resonated with that because that suggests guilt somehow, and I don't feel that. I think it's more, at least from my perspective, it's that fear of losing connection. If I feel I've lost connection with someone, or someone has dismissed or not responded to me, I've learned to accept that it's just not their time. I mean, I can't control how they react to me. I can control how I react to that. So I think, the idea that I know I am to my head and body type family, and probably to a lot of my friends, a lot, because I like things, to do things big. I mean, there was a time that I had 9 fully decorated Christmas trees and over 100 Santas and ridiculous amount of Christmas decorations. I had a storage unit for them. And now I'm down to literally 2 little trees this big, and I've given it all away. But the greatest joy for me is to go to my children's homes, and I zero in right away how well they have taken my stuff, their stuff, what they grew up with, and can actually, it's like paying it forward. Like, I had this beautiful, incredible hand-painted leather pillow with Santa's face on it. It cost me $300 back in my old life when I had a lot of money. And I gave it to my son and daughter-in-law, and they gave it to her mother. I'm like, what? And then I stopped to think about it. And I'm like, how wonderful is that? It's something she'll really enjoy. So to some degree, I got the buzz for giving because I'm able to give it to somebody who truly will appreciate it. And all it is stuff. But to me, stuff brings back memories, and stuff brings back connections to people that may be gone or people that I no longer see. And so it's just, a lot of it is the overwhelmingness of all that emotion during this time of year. Add to that the decorations, the music, the smells. It's kind of like being on steroids for me, at least. And that's where I have to really bring it down, calm it down, and just savor the moment, because this could be the last Christmas. You never know. So enjoy it for what it is. And so many years of Christmases were spent, kind of moving forward. Like, almost my 3-wing would come out and I'd be so busy. Now I'm actually enjoying the holidays a lot more.
I wonder, Claire, how much the heart types really do because of our heart centers. Yeah, holidays, the gatherings, the fun, I resonated so much with what Bill just said. And there was a point where I kind of got shamed for that by my family. I had lots of trees. I had lots of things. I loved to do the holidays. And so then I stopped because I'm like, it's like, okay, whether it wasn't appreciated or it was almost made fun of because of my love for it, because I'm a heart type. I love to gather the people. I love to have the celebration and do the stuff. And it was like, it was too much. And so finding that balance of like how it feeds my heart and my soul, but yet feeds the soul of those I'm with. So that's that cooperation piece for me, but yeah.
Yeah. So even when you say do the holidays, that's that, doing.
Yeah, that's a 3.
Right. And so even relaxing that with your beautiful word, linger, which feels like it takes away the ungroundedness of the doing the holidays, that word linger, really. And how, even with our 4, I just wonder, sometimes 4s, they just feel like they don't look like the other 2 heart types at all. And tell us about that. I wouldn't think that you would use the word do the holidays, Sam.
No, probably not. Yeah, I think that 4s, or for me, as a 4, sometimes the holidays feel inauthentic because I think other people are expecting there to be a certain kind of placidity, or I don't know what the word is for it. If there's stuff underneath that's not being addressed, then a 4 feels that and senses it. Especially in relationships, if there's a sense that there's been loss, there has been something lost in a relationship, or there has something lost over the years for that holiday, whatever it is. But I think 4s bring a certain level of melancholy because sadness feels more real than joy. Sadness feels like something more tangible than joy for some reason. And I think that because of that, then, like doing a lot or having a lot going on, doesn't necessarily serve a 4 in one way, because a 4 needs to be able to express that something's gone, something's missing. A 4 needs to be the way to like say, to create something, maybe, I don't know, to offer something in some way that offers that there's reason for their own melancholy and for that to be connected to somebody else, for someone else to say, I sense that too, or I feel that too. And not just say it. I think also 4s need something tangible that suggests that they're welcome in the room, that they're thought of, that they're seen, and that what they bring is beautiful to that experience. Because I think it's two, for some reason it's kind of a 2-pronged thing. A 4 needs to be able to say something's missing, there's melancholy here, that feels more real. And then a 4 needs, I at least in my experience, needs somebody to pull them out of it, but not in a shameful way. Not in a way that says, would you please just stop being so melancholy, Oops. But yeah. But somebody who can actually bring them out in an authentic way. Joy and laughter and fun and connection, those are so necessary for a 4, because I as a 4,
So Sam is frozen for me. Is he frozen for all of you? Put your thumb up if he is. So Sam, you just froze. And we really were hanging on every word there, wanting to hear the rest of that. The other thing that I was interested in is I think we heard your wife when you said a 4 doesn't want someone to say, get out of your melancholy. And I think I heard your wife say, oops. And so, yeah, that I think that helps us be with our beloved 4s in a way that can be kind, right? Any other questions for our heart panel?
Diane had another question, I think. Claire.
Diane.
Well, before, when you advertise this, you said that we should come ready to share. And so I thought, well, I do have something to share because a couple of weeks ago, I suddenly became anxious about Christmas. And I mean, my life, everything couldn't be better right now. I achieved so many things by the end of this year. And even my number 2 granddaughter came over and helped me decorate. And she's just great. And she helped me bake cookies. And I'm so glad that I have a number 2 granddaughter. But then I still had a lot of anxiety around Christmas Eve and Christmas Day because nobody was coming in from out of town. So it was just going to be me and my local nearby family. And I had sent out a text to my daughter and son-in-law with some suggestions, and they didn't respond. And, and Bill was saying that when people don't respond on time, you have that feeling of losing connection. I'm going, oh my goodness. And I was being irrational, and I was aware of it. And then I had to study myself and say, okay, I'm a 2. I love to plan, and I can't plan because I don't know what what they want to do. And so I had to really sort through all those feelings and finally find the words to say to my daughter or to text to her and say, please call me when you get a minute so we can talk about the holidays. And so I had to wait a couple of days, and that was hard. But then, she called, and then I said, I love to plan, and I love to look forward to things. And, I would like to talk about this. And so then we did. And all the things that I had suggested in that text 2 weeks ago, she goes, oh, yeah, that's great. But, they didn't get back to me, and I was really in a dither. And so then, I was really able to relax, and I'm looking forward to this more simple and uncomplicated Christmas without out-of-towners, but, it's going to be really nice. And boy, that anxiety really hit the nail on the head for me as a 2.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I think, as DRC says, God comes disguised as your life. And, those triggers, those drivers are really being brought to the surface, right? When we're paying attention to what is our real life in the holidays, that's actually calling us to pay attention and to practice compassion with ourselves and empathy with others. And so is there another hot burning question, or are we going to let Sam finish his what he was saying before he froze? Is there another question? Put it in the sidebar. And Sam, do you want to finish what you were saying?
Sure. I feel like it was overly complicated. I think 4s are overly complicated. But I think all I was trying to say is it takes both the authenticity of saying that something is missing, there's sadness, and that feels real for 4. But then also 4s really need the help sometimes from their family and from their connections to help them pull out of that, because it can be too much. They can disappear in all their emotions. So authentic joy, real connection can really kind of help a 4 quite a bit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And you actually said that sadness was more true than joy. And,
it feels that way.
Yeah, it feels that way. And it's interesting. So I'm a 3, And I have this year we're living through having lost 2 family members to divorce, and my huge Italian family is not getting together again this year. So since my dad died, we have not gotten together with our huge Italian family. And I was feeling the melancholy, and I always say my best spiritual directors have been 4s on the Enneagram, because they will just go into that place with me in ways that many other types can't. And so I said to myself, okay, I'm not only going to meet with my 4 spiritual director, but I'm going to go away in silence for a couple of days just to live in the emptiness of life right now, because this is the gift that's being given to me. I'm not going to try to slap something on it to make it something that it isn't. I want to be with what sadness and emptiness can teach me in this Christmas season, because 3s can very effectively move through and not even notice. And so I'm grateful for the 4, who really gives us this beautiful understanding of being with, actually living into the linger portion that Teresa is talking about, that the letting go of superfluous things that Bill is encouraging us to do, that the simplifying and going to small trees and giving away, stuff to give joy to others. And I think there is a way, when we think about experiencing the divine, being present to presence, wondering, I want to guide you in a meditation, as we always do when we close, and where we would notice where we feel most at home in the truest thing about us, where we are the temple, right? Where we are the house for the divine, the house for God. And so, for some of you, you wouldn't want to do what I'm doing. I'm going to a convent, and I'm going to spend days with sacred art and symbols and in silence. But that helps me get in touch with my heart. I'm going to be in a couple of liturgies that are just, the Key of David is tomorrow night. And I can't wait for that, because I don't have to do any work. I don't have to perform. I don't have to sing. I don't have to write the prayers. I get to read the prayers. So I wonder how everyone here can actually experience the invitation from Sam to be close to, the reality of not only what is here, but what isn't here. What is presence, but what we've let go of to actually experience presence. What we actually strip away in order to be aware of the truest thing about us is beyond performance, beyond doing, beyond loving people, beyond answering the telephone, with our busy lives, getting from here to there, and how can we come home? And so let's breathe for a minute, everyone. Let's, however you get comfortable in your body, if you close your eyes, if you have a sacred symbol that you want to bring into your mind's eye or take your eyes to in the room that you're sitting in. If there's a place or a space where you feel your own presence, your own inherent greatness made in the image of God. In my tradition, we would say you're the temple for the Spirit, the Holy Spirit. And if we could breathe into the place and allow either a word or a symbol, an image, a memory that helps us go there, to remember ourselves, to be in this moment, to be in the moments that are lingering, the moments that make space for all that is, both joy and sorrow, for both what is and what isn't. And maybe even in this moment, with that image or that symbol or that memory, you could breathe in and around your heart space. And maybe not breathing right into the place that feels painful, but maybe even around it, creating an expanse, a way for you to be with more than the memory, the symbol, the word. And in this moment, feel the goodness of your own breath, the life that is being breathed into you now. The goodness of the connection of these people who are willing to be so vulnerable with us. And to wonder how you could make space for people in this season that feel both full and empty. To make space to be present. And I leave you with these words, and words that have been spoken in my faith tradition and in faith traditions all over the world. Peace. Peace to you, and may you be an instrument of peace. Till next month.